This is the regular schedule.
Yep,
You think I need to repeat that? To
Maybe.
get it in the recording?
just to make sure.
Okay. For the third time, no. All right, well, welcome. It is now 10:11 on Friday, May 19, 2023. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments Board meeting. We need 10 board members for a quorum. By our count, we presently have 5, but we're going to go ahead and convene the meeting at this time. And we'll move through the items that we can without a quorum, and the action items will have to hold until hopefully we get enough additional people. We can take action on those, and if not, we'll suspend those to a future meeting as necessary. So that brings us to item 2, which is the roll call.
Roll call. I'll be doing our roll call this morning. Next slide there, Zach. Thank you. We do have some meeting protocols on our slides now that we haven't had before. So for those in the room, just a reminder that the owl is very sensitive. So we'll try to keep our side conversations to a minimum. We call you our roomies. Our Zoomies who are joining us over Zoom, use your raise hand function if you'd like to be recognized. Next slide. Okay, roll call. Ben-Franklin Transit.
Good morning, Rochelle present.
Benton County. City of Benton City. City of Connell. City of Kennewick.
Rental Crawford here.
City of Pasco. City of Prosser. Oh, City of Pasco, I'm gonna go back. I believe that Mr. Brown may have joined us.
Yes, good morning. I am here, Councilman Brown. How are you all today?
Good, thank you.
Good. I'm having some technical difficulties, but I'm getting it together here.
Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
City of Prosser. City of Richland. City of West Richland.
Kate Moran, present.
Franklin County.
Brad Peck.
Port of Benton. Port of Kennewick. Port of Pasco. Walla Walla County. And Washoe.
Chris Kuiper here.
Okay, we have 6 of the 10 needed for quorum.
Okay, thank you. We really can't even approve the agenda without a quorum, but that's okay. I'm just going to ask, is there any objection from any of the board members with us proceeding on the non-action items using the agenda that's been provided? Okay, not hearing any, thank you. We'll just move on to public comment. Anyone joining us? No one's in the room.
No public
Okay.
that we can see.
Did I hear someone else log in? Maybe not. Okay. Then we'll move on. We cannot do item 6 consent. That would require a quorum to vote. So we'll move to item 7. And of course, if we achieve a quorum, we'll go back to the action items, as Kate suggested earlier. Item 7, reports. And under that is 7A. Aaron's going to do that. Aaron, you're coming in remote from where?
Vashon Island.
Vashon Island. Okay. Well, I can see the grin. Must be vacation. But you're up.
Yeah,
7A, please.
Visiting my wife's side of the family. And I've never been to Vashon Island, so it's been pretty neat to explore so far. But all right,
I'm out of your vacation.
No, I will always make time for our Friday board meetings. So item 7A1 is the 2023 Transportation Improvement Program obligation status. As we are the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization for our region, we're required to have an obligation authority. So how much money we are supposed to spend in the region, and our obligation authority target for this year is 5.5 million. We have over obligated on that. We've had three projects obligate for a total of 6.2 million. That puts us over our obligation authority target by 983,000. If you can go to the next slide, please, Zach.
And Aaron, we're talking state fiscal year.
That is, or no, federal fiscal year.
Oh, federal fiscal, so through the end of 30 September
That is
would
correct.
be, yeah, right, okay. Between the calendar year, the state fiscal and the federal, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So we are well ahead and we've still got June, July, August, and September. So
That
we're
is correct.
2/3 of the way through and we're over obligated, which is excellent. Thank you.
And thank you for asking that question, because since we are over obligated before the date of August 1 on the federal fiscal year, it positions our region to be eligible for redistribution funds. This is where if another state did not meet their target and they know that Washington State is going to meet their target, our region would then be in position to get extra funds to fund more projects because of how we are already over obligated. So between
Hey, Aaron,
oh, go ahead.
as long as we got a minute, educate me just a little bit more. End of the federal fiscal year is 30 September, but you just mentioned August 1.
Yep.
What is that?
Why is that date? I don't exactly know why WashDOT selects that date.
Oh, it's a
But
WashDOT date. Okay.
that is
all right.
correct.
All right.
And I'm not throwing Chris.
Presuming they're just prepping for the federal year.
Yeah, no, and I'm not throwing Chris under the bus. It's from local programs is the one that is setting the date on that. And I think it's a timeline of when, so for example, if Idaho is going to not meet their target and they know that Washington State is going to, they will then, I'll say, redistribute funds to Washington State. And then the regions that are very overperforming are the ones that get the money first.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it took me a while to get my head around all the different calendars that we use. And in this case, it's federal dollars, it's federal year, it ends 30 September, but our reporting is 1 August so that the states can settle things out with the federal government before the end of the federal fiscal year. Chris, I see you have your hands up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I think the idea behind that August 1st date is to, like Aaron said, funds that are redistributed to our state, then it gives us an opportunity to obligate those potentially before the end of the fiscal year. So I believe that's the timing on that. Gives us a couple of months.
Yeah, thank you. I really do think that part of these meetings is to help us educate one another, just because I know for as many years as I've been doing it, there's still things that come up that I look at and say, why the heck is that like that? So yeah. I appreciate your letting me have the time to do it. And I see that Mayor Barrow from Connell has joined us as well. Welcome, Lee. We're still about 3 short of a quorum for action items, so we're going through the non-action items first.
Okay, thank you.
So there are federal, state, and what's the third funding?
Well, there's a calendar year, normal 1 January. There's the state fiscal year that ends June 30th. There's the federal fiscal year that ends September 30th. And then for some programs, especially those where there's federal dollars involved, but the state is managing those dollars, they'll set a date earlier, in this case, 1 August, to give the state time to look at all of our participating entities in the state. And if somebody has not obligated all their money, rather than risk losing it, they could re-obligate elsewhere. And if I got any part of that wrong, jump in and correct me.
Well, and then we have our fiscal cycle, which is calendar year.
Right. Kate, please go ahead. I see your hand.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing right. So for this particular, for the MPO, for this 7A1, we're saying that we've over obligated for the region's OA and that our region is eligible for redistribution from funds from other states if others have not fully obligated or met their obligation by what day?
I don't know that, yeah, I don't know that we would be able to draw funds from other states. That's a better question for WSDOT. But certainly if there are regions within the state that haven't obligated, I think there's opportunity for WSDOT to make sure that those funds get used rather than risk losing them.
So, Kate, Councilmember Moran, if we were to, it's our region has a target that we have to meet, just as other MPO regions have that same target. And then Washington State has a target that we have to meet. So if Washington State, like Chris mentioned, if we are on track to meet that before August 1, Washington State can then be in position to receive redistribution funds from other states. And then as we are a region that has already over obligated and we are in really good position to meet our target, we would then be one of the first regions to receive the redistribution funds if our state is eligible to receive the funds.
So is
So
the
Aaron,
fund within the region or the fund is for the state? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. The items that, the funds that could come to our state, would
Mhm.
they be from other states in our region or from other regions
It would be from another state.
in our region?
I don't know the exact location of the funds, but I just know that
Okay.
they would be from other states.
Okay, just curious. Wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I was writing it down right. Thank you.
So Aaron, just to close out this discussion
Mhm.
or this question. If other MPOs in the state of Washington have under obligated, is there opportunity for those funds to flow to other MPOs in the state? In this
Yes, yes,
Okay,
if
so
we still meet
there's potential for funds to migrate within the state as well as between states.
that is correct.
Which bottom line to the whole thing is, our jurisdictions did a great job of getting their obligations done, and as a result, we're in a position to possibly get additional funds.
That is correct.
Great. All right. Please continue with your report.
If there's no other questions on 7A1, we can move on to the next item.
Yep, please do.
So 7A2, regional funding opportunities. So BFCOG staff has been contacted by different jurisdictions throughout the region to pursue these two funding opportunities. And we are moving forward as a staff to pursue the charging and fueling infrastructure discretionary grant program. This program provides two funding categories. That is the community charging fueling grants and the alternative fuel corridor grants program. We are, from those two different funding categories, we are pursuing the community charging fueling grants program. So this is, we will be looking to identify locations throughout the region for electric vehicle chargers. Tanner Martin has been contacting the different jurisdictions to potentially ask them if they'd be interested in having EV chargers at different regional parks or different regional hubs. Just that would be going in our grant application. And then the next item is the Safe Streets and Roads for All funding. This will be lumped into our regional Safe Routes to School plan. And this has been, the deadline for this one is middle of July. So we'll be working with different jurisdictions. Once we do get the funding, I'm not being overzealous by saying when we do get the funding, this is the planning part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All funding is being funded at a very high level. The next phase on the implementation of this grant is a bit more competitive, but this will be lumped into the regional Safe Routes to School plan, which will help all of our jurisdictions check the box for many other grant applications that they're putting in for.
Okay, any questions for Aaron before he moves to 7A3? Aaron, go ahead, please.
All right, 7A3, so urbanized area boundary review meetings. I brought this up to the board several months ago that we would be working with jurisdictions to revise the urbanized area boundary. So this is just this is just a refresher on that. So BFCOG staff will be working with different jurisdictions to adjust the 2020 urban area boundary for the Kennewick-Richland-Pasco urban area. And I want to make sure that that is just the official name of our urban area to FHWA. That's why it's labeled like that. So urban area boundaries are primarily used to establish the eligibility for transportation planning and project purposes. And the criteria for how we can adjust this has been set forth in guidance by the Washington State Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration. BFCOG staff will be meeting with jurisdictions over the next month to revise this boundary, and then a revised boundary will be submitted to the boundary review team by June 30th. And then, Zach, you can go to the next slide, please. So this is just an overview showing the different boundaries. So in the tan is the 2010 urbanized area that was passed on to our region after the 2010 census. BFCOG did a revision of this boundary in 2013, and you can see that in the gray. And then the 2020 urbanized area, the one that was passed on to us from the most recent census, is in the black dashed line. So you can see there's some discrepancies. Each of the jurisdictions have been provided a map with their current city limits, the urban growth boundaries, and roadways as well, showing where there could be potential physical lines of how we could be revising the boundary. So just, and this is a very common practice that happens at the MPO level throughout the country. So the current 2020 urbanized area was based upon a household formula, and it can be revised. It's just part of the regional planning process. And Zach, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is just showing the Kennewick, Richland, Pasco urbanized area with generalized land uses, also just depicting an image of how much further do we want to be adjusting the urbanized boundary. It's supposed to go out for 30 years into the future. So you can see that there is the black dashed line of the 2020 census urbanized area, which is much smaller than the current urbanized area. So the land uses help show the image of where we are anticipating growth and how much farther the boundary should be pushed out for.
So is that, oh, can you go back? So
Go ahead, I was gonna ask.
is Kennewick then for we're going across the highway now in the future? Is that, so it's showing white, some of that's going to be industrial. Does that need to be updated or no?
Yes. So thank you for asking that question. So this is just a generalized land use map based upon each jurisdiction's comp plan. So if it does have industrial shown, I believe I generalized it just agriculture. So if it is a specialty, I'll say industrial zone parcel, it could be zoned industrial, but the land use is still showing agriculture. That's why.
Okay.
So Council Member Crawford, it could be updated and this map could be incorrect.
So Aaron, is the portion that surrounds Burbank sort of going to be overcome by events with population changes?
So
We're going to go ahead.
So Burbank is now, I'll say we're still pending acceptance from the governor on if Burbank is part of our MPA boundary. So during last month's board meeting, it was approved that we were to drop Burbank off of our MPA, and based upon drop Burbank off of our MPA metropolitan planning area due to the 2020 census, the density of the households in Burbank led it to not be part of the Tri-Cities urbanized area.
And so I'm looking at the black line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's projected based on comp plans?
So the black line is the current urbanized area.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, I didn't catch that. All right, that explains it.
Down by Sacagawea Park, you can see the 2020 urbanized area, how it kind of cuts off. It even cuts off before Sacagawea Park.
Yeah, it's a little small for me to see all that detail, but yeah, I get it now. Thank you.
If you tried to print the packet, you could. There was a 24 by 36 version of this map.
Yeah, my printer would not go for that.
He has her.
Oh, thank you. Now, by the way, if anybody has their hand up and I don't see it right away, just start talking, because I'm not good at seeing those, as Michelle knows, but thank you. Kate, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure what we're looking at with the current urbanized, that is what we are hoping to verify with local jurisdictions between the next 2 months, May and June, so that we can finalize where our lines are going to be for urbanization that we'll send off to what federal, right?
Yes, it goes to WashDOT, and then they pass it on to the federal. Zach, if you can go back one slide, it might be an easier image to show. So Kate, our area is it's a unique example because we are a established urban area. However, we are still experiencing rapid growth. So a lot of the different, I'll say, metropolitan areas our size have, lack of a better word, set in stone. They know what their urban area is, but we're still rapidly growing. So our revision of expanding it happens every 10 years. So that even from the 2013 revision, and using West Richland as the example, you need to have your entire city limits within the urban area. And right now, all of West Richland city limits aren't within our urban area. So that would be one example of something that would be changing, is incorporating all of West Richland.
Right. And I even just noticed for the 2020 urbanized areas like, I believe, just on the other side of, wait, where is that? Nope, that is. So it looks like, for instance, the racetrack and the new police station,
Yeah,
which are part of West Richland, aren't in the 2020, but they are in the current urbanized area. So the current urbanized area still doesn't include the entirety of the city of West Richland, but in May and June, going over that with different jurisdictions locally, we will finalize so that we know where the edges of these cities are, and then send that off to WashDOT
that's correct.
to go to federal? Okay, all right,
So,
thank you.
the way I would say the easiest way to think about it, and I apologize that the city limits aren't on this map, but the gray is the gray is of it being the quote unquote current one. It will be the one that will be expanded to engulf all of the current city limits and urban growth areas.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking at the colorized map on my city's iPad. So I can see where it's got all of our urban growth area in the yellow, and the upper left in that next map there, not in there. And it looks like Benton City isn't in it at all. I'm assuming Benton City will be included.
Benton City will not be included.
Okay. So it's just the 4 cities?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Zach, I'm ready to go to my next item. All right, so next item is 7A4 MPO Deputy Director General Update. So as part of what has been relayed to all of the board members over the last couple of months, we've been doing a mad dash for hiring. So since the April board meeting, we have hired 4 staff members. We've hired 1 regional planner and 3 regional planning interns. So we've hired Alex Hall. He will be a regional planner starting on June 7th. We have hired Elizabeth Garcia Mitchell as a regional planning intern. She started on Monday, May 15th. We've hired Priyanka. I apologize for messing up her last name. Chapakar, regional planning intern, starting on May 30th, and hiring of Daisy Schroeder starting on June 19th. Elizabeth, since she is here already, I will let her introduce herself if you would like to say anything.
I just want to say hi. I'm Elizabeth Garcia. Excited to work here. It's been a week so far and it's been going good.
Erin, one item I would add on the hiring of staff members, I have one to report in my report as well. But on the transportation side, we actually have funding in Erin's budget for up to 5 full-time planning staff members. So that's part of our approved budget. But because hiring full-time planners has been such a challenge, we went the route of hiring planning interns for the summer. So the equity to the current budget is still well under what is available to be spent for staffing on the transportation side. So just to clarify, it may seem like we're adding a lot of people, but we are, but only because we had existing vacancies that needed filled. And we have been so excited to have Lizzie with us this week. It's been nice to have additional personality and bodies here in the office. Go ahead, Erin.
All right. On Tuesday of this week, I participated in a panel at the 2023 Northwest Safety and Health Summit. It was speaking about regional traffic safety. I was the only police officer on the panel, so it was nice to hear all of their perspectives about regional traffic safety and what's going on, and also informing them on what we're doing. And then on Tuesday, the 23rd, I will be speaking to the AP Human Geography classes at Hanford High School about urban planning and the profession behind that, and assisting them in map making with ArcGIS. Zach, can you, oh, thank you. And then another thing, I participated in the Bike Tri-Cities Bike Expo on May 13th at Columbia Park. Coming up before our next board meeting in June, the Tri-Cities Mobility Action Group will be doing a walk audit with the city of West Richland in early June. It's looking like the walk audit route will be down near the Yakima River. So conducting a walk audit, I believe I've informed all of the board of this in the past, but this is just a way to, I'll say, ground truth the qualitative and quantitative data that all of the cities have. So this is just providing a different perspective. Also, we participated in early May, the quarterly WashDOT MPO RTPO coordinating committee meeting. And then I also attended Governor Inslee's climate bill signing event at the Horn Rapids Solar Industrial Park on behalf of BFCOG earlier this month.
Hey, Erin, is that the end of your general items report?
That is correct.
Okay, I just, a lot of good stuff there. I just want to call out this first time I've heard of anybody in our staff going into the high schools and the AP classes and helping and being visible. And I think it's part of helping the community better understand who we are and what we do when we have people like you out there in the community and in classrooms. And obviously with the extreme shortage of planners these days, that's a good thing to be exposing them to what you do and encouraging them to consider it as a career path. So I think that's really awesome. Appreciate you doing that.
It's been it's been a lot of fun. This will be my third year speaking to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't aware that you've been doing it. It's the first time I've heard you brief it. So thanks for briefing it, and thanks for continuing to do it. I think it's really great. Okay, Michelle, I think that brings us to you, unless there are any questions from anyone about 7A, the Deputy Director's report.
Right.
Not seeing any hands, so Michelle.
Okay, well, the first item that I have is item B1, which is our employee manual. Like the operational documents, the employee manual has been a work in progress since I joined the COG. We did not have an employee manual of any kind. There are a few adopted policies and of course our current employment practices, but they had never been compiled. And so prior to my arrival, the COG had contracted with an HR professional to do a draft employee manual. We continued from that starting place, put the manual together, made critical decisions about how we handle things in the office when it comes to staff management, and then had that reviewed and approved by our legal counsel to make sure that we had all the appropriate information for state and federal employment law. And so this document is finally ready for adoption. The bulk of what's in the employee manual are not items that would normally come to the board for approval, but because it does double as our employment policy, because it does encompass our staff holidays and vacation and those things that have previously been adopted by the board. That's why we're bringing it to the board for adoption, as both a manual and staff policy. There are 3 items in the employee manual that I want to bring to your attention just for transparency that are changes from either past policy or past practice. Next slide. So the first is adding the Juneteenth federal holiday. Since it was recognized as a federal holiday, we have recognized it as staff, but it's never actually been officially added to our federal holiday calendar. So we added that in the employee manual. The second is our maximum leave balance. In the original draft policy, the draft employee manual that had been here when we arrived, it listed the maximum leave balance for leave accrual as 375 hours or 50 days. We have received warnings several times on our audit because of the fact that we had several long-term staff, which is awesome, but we had such high leave balances compared to our reserve funds and other things, that it was really a fiscal liability for us because of the amount of compensated absences that we have. In fact, that contributed to the situation we're in now, where we have such a small reserve fund because we had employees who had left and we had to pay out large compensated absences balances. So we have set that in the draft manual, reducing that back to 225 hours, which is 30 days. An employee receives between 18 to 24 days a year. So by setting it at 30, it encourages the use of vacation by employees, which is what we want them to do, as well as minimizes to some degree that fiscal liability for the COG. And then the third thing was how we accrue vacation for years 1 through 5. So in our current practice and in the original draft employee manual, employees who are with the COG from 1 to 5 years, they start out with 18 days of vacation.
That's a lot.
That's,
How does that come up? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a private business owner, and
Yeah.
that's like, and especially with your small staff that you have.
you know, I think that's part of the reason, honestly, is in order to be competitive for an organization like us, where we have to compete not only against our larger jurisdictions as members to keep staff, as well as our state partners. I can say that from the state government agency that I came to from Idaho, from here, that was a comparable vacation. So with some of the government entities, that's one of the only cards they have to play, is we have a vacation type. So, but what we have currently is 18 days, and then at 6 years, so after 5 years, that just jumps up to 24 days.
It's still 3.5 weeks.
Mhm.
I own my own business. I don't take 3.5 weeks of vacation a year.
Which goes back to that whole accrual of comp time policy, that we're reducing that so that they use the time and take the time off.
But then you're not getting the outcome. And then
Yeah, it hasn't been a problem for us, and I think it is an important recruiting and intention item for us. But one of the changes we wanted to make specific to retention incentive was, rather than just adding an additional 5 days after 6 years, is going to a policy for every year of service between years 1 and 5, in those early years where we're more likely to lose someone to another agency, that we add 1 day a year for those 5 years, rather than just, oh, it's 6 years, here's 5 more days. Because odds are, if we're gonna retain somebody, it's gonna be in that 5-year window. So,
and have you considered at all, at least each year, that your vacation accrues throughout the year, so that somebody can't just take 2 weeks at the beginning of the year, or again,
It does
they
accrue.
quit mid-January and they get paid for.
oh yeah, no, it does accrue throughout the per pay period. Yeah, they don't just receive that many days. No, it is accrued throughout the year.
And if they don't use it, it gets cashed out at the
We
end of the
do
year?
not cash out.
And
So
it doesn't
that's
go
where
away?
we're doing that maximum leave balance limit, so that if you reach 225 hours on the books, you are no longer accruing new vacation. So the maximum liability we are ever gonna have per employee is 225 hours. And again, it would take some time for somebody to accrue that many hours, if they never took any days. But so those were the three changes for the employee manual. Everything else is just a summary of either state or federal law, previously adopted policies or hiring practices. But
So let me speak to the leave thing for just a minute.
Yeah.
Those of us who have had our own businesses at various times in our careers, and some currently do, there is oftentimes a real mismatch between the total compensation arena in the private sector and the public sector. And the two sectors are competing with one another for employee talent. And we deal with this a lot at Franklin County, where a lot of the skill sets that we have are directly applicable right across the river in Benton County. And we know that from a fiscal standpoint, we aren't able to compete just on a salary dollar basis. So constantly looking for different tools and techniques and tactics and things that we can offer that as much as possible minimize the burden on the county. If we thought that we could offer less than we currently do and still staff our positions, I don't think anybody would be opposed to entertaining that. But my discussions with Michelle and our difficulty hiring planners suggest to me that we're not at the point where we're really all that competitive to start with. And if we were to cut benefits further, it might help us a little bit, but I don't think the improvement to our budget is going to justify the vacancies that will result. I don't know. Be candid and weigh in. I mean, tell us what you think.
well, I think it's true. And when you look at the vacation time from a liability standpoint for the COG, it really does come out on that compensated absences piece. What might we have to cash out if somebody leaves? And how much of a burden are we holding on our books for that vacation time? So we're splitting the road to try and still acknowledge that staff need to have time on the books. But I'll give you a great example. We have got a longer term employee on our staff now who has had some major health issues that exceed sick time, are going to exceed FMLA, and just knowing that they have the access of up to 30 days of their vacation allows them to be able to continue to feel comfortable in not only can I take vacation time, but also if I have a long-term sickness, because our sick time is not significant. We do it's 6 days a year of paid sick time. And so that doesn't accrue quickly, and you can wipe that out pretty fast. So oftentimes vacation time is used in lieu of, or in addition to sick time. So that's important. The other thing about the vacation time and what you'll see with our staff, I mean, I think Aaron's a great example. You know, he's on vacation, but he is committed to the COG to where he's spending time here on our board meeting when he could have just passed the buck and not been. But we allow that flexibility, and that comes from the use of those vacation days. So I am not feeling like the staff time away is burdening our ability to perform. If I did, we'd be having another kind of conversation, but it has not been an issue.
But what about the other side of it, of paying a little bit more to hire employees, but maybe not as much vacation time?
Right now, the focus for individuals is life outside of the office. Well, life outside of the office. Are you going to let me work remotely? What do you have for vacation time? And what does that flexibility look like? So for us, I would be reluctant to touch the vacation time, because for some people, that will actually trump the hourly wage, is just being able to have time to travel and feel like they have work-life balance. But that's just what we're seeing.
And I'm
Michelle, yeah,
seeing,
is administrator for a small city, you gotta get creative to retain people. It's tough to get people to come
Sorry,
in.
Lee.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, will you start again, please?
We can't quite hear you, a little quiet.
Maybe my volume's down. Can you hear me? Or
That's
hold on.
better.
Now you're
Again.
mute.
I think my
Okay.
volume's down. Can't hear me, let me know. No, I was just gonna add in is, you know, as administrator for a small city, we struggle with that every day, just retaining people. And, you know, you got to get creative sometimes, add a few little perks here to retain those. And it's most important with the smaller entities. So, you know, I totally agree. I would hate to take that away. And like you said, it's important to have time away from the office and refresh and ready to go. And you know, we do stuff like that too. We try to be real flexible, and I think it really helps on the retention of those good employees. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just one comment and then a question. You know, from my experience in both state and local government, you know, this accrual rate is on par with that. I don't think it's any too much at all. And then I guess the question I had is existing staff that have more than 225 hours, is there some type of a grace period for them to use that leave and get below 225 hours?
So at this point, we don't have any staff that are over 225. Our long range staff were part of our turnover in this last year. So we are all below that level now. So we won't have to manage down to that for anybody. The other comment I wanted to make is that I did talk to a couple of recruiting agencies when we were looking at trying to hire planners. And this was one of the topics that they actually said to us. They said, planners are so hard to recruit for right now. You need to figure out how you can get creative. She said, I have agencies front loading all of the vacation and not making them accrue, education reimbursement, flex time, remote work. I mean, you name it, because they can't get enough people. So this is definitely a bargaining chip that the agencies are using right now.
And I was just going to add that having a fair amount of interaction with the other 38 counties, this is not unique to councils of governments or to cities or to counties. We're all competing really in the same pool of employees, especially where they're all largely PERS, although we haven't gone there yet, I realize, Michelle. But the reality is, as Lee was saying, flexibility is the key. Right down when you're looking at a benefits package, finding as many different ways that those same dollar amounts can be delivered to employees. There are really great employees who have insurance somewhere else or have obligations at home, and when you start combining the opportunity to work from home a certain number of days a week, and you're reducing their family costs for childcare or something where they can double up those things, oftentimes that will trump salary, it will trump vacation. It fits their needs and their lifestyle. And so I think Lee's comment was spot on about flexibility, not for the organization, but for the potential employee. It's a necessity in this competitive market. Okay.
Anyway, so those were the only items on the employee manual for everybody. Otherwise, the rest of what's in the manual is you know, pretty boilerplate stuff for state and federal rules and classifications of employees and all of that.
So any questions on the employee manual? I appreciate your highlighting the things that have changed. Anyone has questions or you see something in there later that you want more on, obviously just give Michelle a call. If you see something that you think that we've overlooked that needs to be addressed in a future update, let us know that as well. Policy belongs to all the members of the organization, and we want it to reflect what the group feels as a whole is in the best interest of the COG. So that takes us to 7B2, review of draft bylaw revisions. This is what about the 5th, 6th time we've discussed this?
The 27th time. No, I'm kidding.
That's good.
No.
It's painful, but it's the right way to do it.
So, what we have here is, this was the, we took the, consensus discussion from the last board meeting, and I went back to the bylaws document and made the edits everywhere necessary to incorporate those items. And so, these are the places that, changed in the draft document. So, the first one was under membership eligibility for cities under 2,500. So we changed the language to, instead of all general units of government, it says general units of government, because we have the qualifier at the end of section 1, regular membership, item 1, that now says, however, small cities with a population of less than 2,500 as determined by the Washington Office of Financial Management are only eligible for associate membership. So that was one of the changes we asked for. Next slide. The second, we had multiple areas that changed because of our executive committee changes in discussion. So the first one is under Article 7, officers, Section 1, principal officers, and we made sure that read that the principal officers are chair and vice chair as referred to in the bylaws. And then we had to change the election process. So down at the bottom of that section, all officers shall be elected to office at the annual meeting or at a meeting designated by the board from among the board members elected or appointed to the executive committee. So since we went to the apportioned executive committee or the representative executive committee, we were electing the chair and the vice chair from that group of people rather than the entire board. Next slide. So then under committees, section 1 standing committee, we removed the nominating committee. There is only executive committee. And we did add clarification because there are standing committees related to the MPO, the RTPO, and the Economic Development District in their respective articles. We just called that out here in the document so that people know there are other standing committees. But this section is referring to the standing committees of the Council of Governments, of which there is the executive committee. Next slide. So then the executive committee, section 4 that outlines the membership of the executive committee still says 5 members, but it now has been changed to say representing the following COG member subcategories: county representative, large city representative over 20,000, small city representative under 20,000, port district representative, and transit agency representative. Next slide. And then continuing on, we added a new section under executive committee that says selection. So each member subcategory representative to the executive committee will be selected by the members of that subcategory at their discretion by either election or consensus. Should any subcategory member not agree with the appointment method, they may request a dispute resolution process. If a resolution cannot be reached, the board has the authority to select the representative by a vote of the entire board. In the event there is not a delegate from the member subcategory able or willing to serve on the executive committee, the subcategory members may request that the board elect an at-large representative to serve as their representative. So basically what that means is we have 2 counties. So between Franklin County and Benton County, they will decide which of them is going to serve on the executive committee because there's only the 2 of them. And if they can't come to some sort of agreement, they can come to the board and say, we can't agree, you all just decide. We both want to serve so badly, you're going to have to choose between us. I'm sure that's going to happen. And then, or in the event that, in the same example, neither of them feel like they could possibly serve on the executive committee, please elect someone at large to serve on the executive committee as the county representative. Okay, next. The purpose was, there was no change from the last meeting. The purpose statement is the same. because it had previously been edited, so, the executive committee shall, during intervals between meetings of the board, exercise those powers of the board in the management of the business and affairs of the organization as provided by law, these bylaws, or by board resolution. So, that's the same as previously edited. Next slide. Under powers, there was some removal of language about the emergency notification, but specifically the addition of the words actions that do not allow for revision, alteration, or change shall only be undertaken. Nah, I need to reword that, sorry. I got two onlys in there, how about that? Actions that do not allow for revision, alteration, or change shall only be undertaken by board action. So take out that extra only. So that was the clarification that we said that, okay, if the executive committee has the ability to take action between board meetings because it has to happen, it's urgent or emergent, they can only do it if it can absolutely still be changed in some way by the board at their next meeting. If not, they do not have the authority to take the action. Okay, next slide. And then the interlocal agreement, the executive committee policy and delegation of authority, and the TAC committee policies were all edited to match those changes because those were the only areas that were of concern. The TAC committee, they had given me edits that they wanted, that those were all added into the TAC committee policy. There was no issue there. So the only changes that happened to those policies were in relation to this document.
I have a question. So
Yes.
somewhere down in here, like one page, 312, so 116 or something like that. It
Okay.
does, so in relation to the TAC and the public works directors like the TAC and then planning.
Mm-hmm.
So it still talks about planning and public works directors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not totally clear on, are the planning just going to be called in when they are needed? And then are there voting rights on the TAC for planning?
So the way that it is, the way it's defined is that there's, if they are in a meeting together, so both representatives, the member will only have one vote. So whether that's the public works director, but they will only have one vote among them if they are all together.
So jurisdictions would potentially have more votes than others
No.
if they have a planning.
No, one vote per jurisdiction.
Per jurisdiction, regardless of whether there's a planner or
Yep.
a public works
One
director.
vote per jurisdiction. So if it's only the public works directors, or if it's only the planners, or if they're combined, if they are both there, they can still only have one vote. So similar to right now, where we, in our TAC meetings, you might have the public works director and another member of the staff there. The public works director votes.
And are you intending to have separate, just planning meetings?
What we discussed with the TAC is that we would let that evolve based on the needs. So for example, right now, Aaron's work on the boundary issue, that's a prime issue where he might convene the planners to talk about the planning boundaries and the comp plan specific to them. But the feedback we've actually gotten from the TAC members is that they actually welcome the idea of having the planners invited to be in those meetings with them, so that they can both understand a little bit more about their sides of the house and how it relates to the work of the COG. So I think we'll probably start out inviting them both, having a joint TAC meeting, and then see, are there times when we need to convene one or the other. But yes, so the framework of the policy just leaves it open that we can convene them however that makes sense for the work that needs done.
Yeah, and to be clear, that vote belongs to the member organization, not to Public Works, not to the planner. It's an organizational vote, and that's within the organization decide
Who they
that's
want to
gonna
be there.
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's good. So I feel like at this point, unless anyone has identified anything else, or there's something about these changes that is unclear. I'll take out the extra only on the one item. I think we have addressed everything that's been brought to our attention at this point. So I think we are ready to put these forward for a vote if we had a quorum, which we don't.
Right. So I'll just add a note, and yeah, admittedly, this is walking on a bit of eggshells, but has never scared me before.
Okay.
There are some organizations over the years, I'm not talking about anybody in particular today, but over the last 10, 15 years of doing this, where perceptions have varied widely as to what the role of the TAC is. It's a technical advisory committee, and it gives advice to their organizations, and it gives advice to this board, but decisions are made by this board. And I think that's more clear now today, based on a lot of the good discussion we've had, and frankly, a lot of the questions that you've raised previously. But I'm gonna keep tapping on that drum that, you know, they're an extremely important part of the process, and that's where the technical advice comes from. And I understand it for some organizations, they want that TAC person to be their organizational representative. That's all up to the organization. But in the end, they're an advisory committee, and they should not be sending anything to the board that is directive in any nature. And over the years, there have been times when they have done that, and we've called foul on it. We're going to continue to do that. They're an advisory board. So no disrespect to them, but they should never be dictating to the board, because while the views of 51% of the TAC might lean in a certain direction, they don't have any authority to be dictating to the elected representatives, oftentimes of the other 49%. So it's,
What do you mean in terms of dictating? Like, they're not presenting two sides of?
no, in the past, they've said, you know, this is what you need to do, is advisory, but, you know, we're not going to do this, we're not going to play if you don't do this, and that kind of stuff. It's difficult to call out a specific example without calling out organizations, so I'm just going to take a pass on doing that. But just suffice it to say that everybody's got to work together. The TAC is a critical component of this. The organizations choose who represents them, and ultimately the TAC provides advice to the board, and ultimately the board makes decisions. I think that's all pretty simple, pretty clear. I think everybody understands that, but there have been times in the last several years where it hasn't been clear to everybody. That's about as tactful as I can be.
So I guess unless
Offline, we can have that conversation.
Sure, okay.
if there's any other feedback before we bring the resolutions and everything back for a vote,
Yeah.
let me know. But as far as I know, I think we're finally there. Okay, so next item on the agenda.
Yes,
General
please read your general update, page 121 in your packet.
Oh, Linda Lehman is here with us. Linda, good to see you.
So we're still too short.
Thank you.
before-
Yep, 2.
Okay, page 121.
Okay, Vicky is on the road.
Can you hear me?
Is that Skip?
Hello, that's me. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you now.
Okay, I just pulled off the side of the road here and I'm here for a little bit.
Okay, perfect.
Great, thank you, Skip. So
You bet.
we're just one short of a quorum now, I think.
Okay, let me see if I can get Vicky on the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was counting Vicky.
Vicky was up here in Spokane also at the WPPA spring meeting.
Yes. Hi, can I put you on speaker so we could do some voting? Thank you. Okay. Vicky Gordon is on the phone.
Okay, that one.
Yep. Okay, we have quorum.
All right,
All right.
great. So,
We can skip my general update for right now and just go straight to voting items. While we have a quorum.
let's do that. Okay, first item for board action that requires a quorum, which is just now achieved, is the consent agenda. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 6A is the voucher summary. These are the vouchers from April 13th through May 11th of 2023. It's page 3 in your packet. And if anyone's inclined to motion for approval, I would be most grateful.
I'll motion to
Mr.
approve. Rochelle Glazier.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the voucher summary, and I think the voices and the names were clear in the recording, so I won't bother to repeat that each time. All in favor of approving the voucher summary as motioned, please say aye.
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 And any opposed?
Who is the second?
Skip.
Skip, okay, thank you. And that was for the consent agenda?
That was
or
for
the-
consent agenda item. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I should have done the whole consent, but since I called it out, I have to now do them separately. It was off the top of my screen, my mistake.
Okay.
All right, so take that as unanimous approval for the voucher summary. That leaves 2 other items in the consent agenda. I'll go ahead and combine these for the sake of time. This is 6B and C, Bravo and Charlie. Bravo is approval of minutes from the regular meeting on April 21st of this year.
How about that?
Here, now I can hear you.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so we're now moving to vote and consider on items 6B and C. That's the approval of minutes in the regular meeting on April 21st of this year, and the RRLF April 2023 loan balance report. Is there a motion to approve those items B and C?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the remaining items on the consent agenda.
This is Kate Moran. I second.
Okay, motion by Skip, second by Kate for approval of 6B and 6C, Bravo and Charlie on the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, 6B and C are approved unanimously. Let's see, we're gonna move down. Where's our next action item? This is item
8A.
A of section 8. Is she picking me up?
Yes, I think Vicky's picking you up.
Okay, we can move that down there somewhere. Okay, so action items under section 8 are A through H. We'll do these individually. First, A is the 2023 to 2026 TIP amendments. This is Tanner Martin's topic. Michelle, do you want to break these down in detail now?
Can you all hear
Oh,
me?
go ahead, Tanner.
Can you hear
Let's
me?
go ahead and summarize and then see if we have any questions. Tanner, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah. So there were 2 amendments for May. One was from the city of Kennewick for the systemic safety street lighting improvements. And that was increasing construction funds from 343,000 to 455,000. And then there was one from WashDOT, which was the SR 24 Columbia River Vernita Bridge painting. Increased PE funds, increased construction funds, and which increased the total project cost of 2 million up to 5 million.
Okay, and those are on page 123 in your packet, if anyone wants to further. Any questions for Tanner on this item? Hearing none, is anyone inclined to motion?
I'll move to approve the motion.
Okay, we
I'll
have a
second.
motion. 8A alpha, and we have a second from Skip Novakovich, Commissioner Novakovich, excuse me. So we've got a motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will move to 8B Bravo. This is resolution 08-23, adoption of the Council of Governments State Fiscal Year Unified Planning Work Program,
Next slide, please.
UPWP. And Aaron, this is yours to speak to, and it's page 126 in your COG meeting packet.
Yes, so the Unified Planning Work Program, also known as the UPWP, outlines our work tasks and budget for the MPO RTPO side of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments. So this proposed motion before you is approving the Unified Planning Work Program for the state fiscal years of 2024 and 2025.
Any questions for Aaron on this topic? Okay, hearing none. If anyone's inclined to motion, please do.
I'll motion to approve Rochelle Glazier.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve by Rochelle and second by Skip. Second call for any questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve 8B Bravo, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. 8B Bravo is approved. Let's move to item 8C Charlie, resolution 0923, adoption of the COG's public engagement plan. Aaron, this is yours also, and it's page 167 in your packet for today.
Yes, thank you. So the public engagement plan outlines how the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments will be engaging with the general public, stakeholders, and other jurisdictions throughout the region. This is an update to the 2019 public engagement plan that was adopted in May of 2019.
I can't hear you.
This resolution and proposed motion before you is to
Which way do I go
adopt and the updated version of this plan. The public engagement plan that is within the packet is an overhaul, making it a much more digestible and public facing document, and having metrics in there and methodologies on how we are going to be assessing how we are engaging with the public.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Questions for Aaron on this topic or comments on the plan? Okay, not hearing any. Any member of the board wishing to motion, I would be appreciative.
I'll move to motion.
Okay, we have a motion for approval from. Oh, yeah, it's
It's
breaking
just you.
here.
It's just you.
I'll second.
Can't stand to hear myself talk. From Gretel in a second. I'm sorry, was that from Chris? All right. So we have a motion and a second for approval of the public engagement plan under 8 Charlie and our action items. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the plan as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, 8C is approved unanimously as well. Moving to 8D Delta, this is Transpo contract extension. This is page 192 in your packet, and Aaron, this is your topic again.
Yes, this is this motion in front of you is for extending or doing a 1-year extension of the current travel demand modeling and planning contract with the Transpo group. They are currently on contract to help with the 4 following items: model improvements, regional planning and data acquisition, assistance with the congestion management process, and on-call services for travel demand modeling. Those 4 items will stay consistent within the 1-year extension. However, the dollar amount has shifted on the on-call services due to the popularity among the jurisdictions for asking the Council of Governments and the Transpo group to perform travel demand modeling requests. So the proposed motion in front of you is to extend the contract by 1 year with the travel demand of the travel demand modeling and planning contract with the Transpo group.
Okay, these, thank you, Aaron. These proposed motions are in your packet as well. You're not necessarily required to use them, but just so you know, when he refers to the proposed motion, that's what he's speaking about. So this item is on page 192. Any questions for Aaron on this topic? 8D Delta, the Transpo contract extension? And if there are none, is anyone inclined to motion?
This is
Mr.
Linda.
Chairman,
I move to approve a 1-year extension of the travel demand modeling and planning contract with Transpo Corp Group.
I'll
Thank you. We
second.
have a motion. We have a motion for approval of 8D, the Transpo contract extension. The second, I believe, was Commissioner Novakovich. So that's item 8D Delta. Any other comments, any questions on this before we vote? Hearing none, not seeing any hands up. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm waiting. I only heard 4 votes. Okay, any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition and not probably having been able to hear all of the votes, I'm still going to take that as approval. It's one of the challenges of Zoom meetings on occasion. This brings us to, so that action item 8B Delta is approved. We'll move to 8E Echo. This is resolution 03-23, adoption of the new Benton-Franklin Council government bylaws. We've had many discussions on these. I want to say up front how much I appreciate all the work the staff has done, especially how responsive I believe they have been done to board members' concerns and interests. It is a living document, and going forward, if we find that portions of this aren't working for us, we'll reopen the discussion and we'll tweak it as needed. This is page 216 in your packet, and I'd ask at this point, are there any comments or questions for Michelle or anyone else, frankly, on this item? You're not hearing any. Is anyone inclined to motion on this item?
This is Kate Moran. I move to approve resolution 03-23, a resolution of the Board of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments adopting the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments bylaws.
Okay, we have a motion for approval from Councilmember
Second,
Moran.
Linda.
Is there a second?
Linda seconds.
Okay, we have a second from Linda. Thank you very much. Get back on the right page here. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of 03-23, which is approval of the Council of Government bylaws updates.
Fascinating.
Comments or questions? Kate, please go ahead. Thank you.
Very brief question. I just want to say thank you so much to staff, Michelle, all of your staff. I really appreciate all the hard work and time that has been put into this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, we'll take that as unanimous approval of resolution 03-23, and we'll move to item 8F Foxtrot. This is resolution 04-23, amendment of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments interlocal agreement. This is page 217 of your packet. And Michelle, is there anything that you care to add on this topic?
The only changes to the interlocal agreement were just minor edits to match the bylaws language specifically, but there is nothing about the content of the agreement itself that has changed in any way.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from anyone on the board? And if not, is anyone inclined to motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 04-23.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of 04-23 from Mayor Barrow, and I believe I heard a second from Councilmember Moran. So we have a motion and second for approval. Comments, questions, last call? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of resolution 04-23 as presented, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, 8F Foxtrot resolution 04-23 is approved as presented. We'll move to 8G golf. This is resolution 05-23, adopting the new Benton-Franklin Council of Government standing committee policies. This is page 219 in your packet. Michelle, any comments?
No, as mentioned previously, the executive committee policy and the TAC policy were amended to match the bylaws that were just adopted, and the TAC policy incorporated all of the recommended changes that the TAC requested. Other than that, the other policies haven't had any changes since they have been reviewed the last, I think, 3 times.
Okay. Comments or questions on resolution 05-23 or anyone desiring to motion?
Kate has her hand up.
Okay, Kate, please.
Thank you. I was just trying to look through and I couldn't find it. Wanted to make sure I was correct in thinking. So did we in this remove the standing committee for nomination committee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Unless anybody else has a question, then I would like to make a motion.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, I move to approve resolution 05-23, a resolution of the Board of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments adopting the following Benton-Franklin Council of Governments standing committee policies: BFCOG Executive Committee Policy and Delegation of Authority, BFCOG Transportation Policy Board and Committee Policy, BFCOG MPO RTPO Technical Advisory Committee Policy, and BFCOG Economic Development District Advisory Committee Policy.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Chris.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval of resolution 05-23 from Councilmember Moran and a second from our WSDOT representative, Chris, and apologies because I just can't read your last name, probably or pronounce it from here.
Greifenheim.
At least I admit my many shortcomings. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second for approval of 05-23. Are there any questions or comments for staff? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of item 8G, approval of resolution 05-23, please say aye.
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 I would like to send the Board of Walla Walla.
Okay, I heard a clear majority there. Any opposed?
For including all their.
Hearing none, then we'll take item 8G, resolution 05-23, the standing committee. I'm just finishing up with G. The standing committee policies is approved. And now we'll move to the next item, which is 8H Hotel. And this is resolution 10-23, adoption of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments Employee Manual, which Michelle spoke to earlier. It is page 221 in your read ahead materials. Are there comments or questions for staff on this item before we seek a motion? Okay, not hearing any. Is anyone inclined to motion on this item?
This is Kate Moran. I move to approve resolution 10-23, a resolution of the Board of Benton-Franklin Council of Governments adopting the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments Employee Manual.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Moran for approval of resolution 10-23, and I apologize, I didn't catch who the second was.
Yeah,
that was Commissioner Novakovich. Thank you. So with that motion and second, comments or questions on resolution 10-23?
I want to apply for a job and get all the vacation time.
We regularly have openings.
Okay, so
I'll be happy to collect your resume at the conclusion of this meeting.
I don't have one, but I'll hope. Okay.
We'll tell you what, we can talk and I'll write it for you. Okay, other comments or questions on resolution 10-23? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve 10-23, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, resolution 10-23, which is item 8H Hotel on our packet, is approved. Thank you all so much for helping me get through those action items. There were many of them and they were all very important. Let's see, I'm running back up the agenda here. I think we had covered everything unless, Michelle, you needed to go back to your general update for anything.
I think there are just a couple of things that you guys would appreciate hearing about from the general update.
Okay, if we could cover those and then we'll jump down to new business.
Perfect. So regarding staffing, of course, Aaron introduced all of our transportation related staff, but we have also hired an operations coordinator Josh VU is going to start with us on the 30th, and we're really excited to have him. So we will have a full complement of staff here in another week and a half.
This will be the first time in a long time.
A while, yes.
Yeah.
So I am very happy. So between having a full complement of staff and adopted org documents and an employee manual, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the next 2 years. I'm sure we'll find something. Oh yes, because then the other piece, the A Street property. We have a signed purchase and sale agreement. We have started the title documents, and we are anticipating having the closing by the end of May. So all is well. As is conditioned, clearly noted. I have spoken with the bank myself. They are the ones that assured me we would be closed by the end of the month. So, A Street property.
Any questions from Michelle on those items?
Did I say it was done?
I just don't want to pass up the chance to make an observation about one of those, since we're on A Street property.
Yes.
And that is that, well, I'm not going to call out individuals. It's nobody present in this meeting, but there was some suggestion that somehow this board was not appropriately sensitive to the needs and interests of veterans. And as a veteran myself, and Skip and others in this group, it was, I'll say, I think, a very unfortunate comment. This group has a duty to balance the public interest while at the same time trying to serve our citizens. And sometimes those two things can be in contention with one another. And I think the board did a superb job, frankly, of balancing our fiduciary interest and duty to the citizens whose tax dollars provide the resources, and at the same time doing our best to accommodate the needs and the wishes of our clients. In this case, they happen to be veterans, and whether they were or not, we should still do our best to balance those interests. And I think the board did a great job in doing that. So thank you for that. And anyone who feels otherwise, the issue is now at rest and we can move on.
We are so close. I don't want to count my chickens, but I can see the
It's
horizon.
one of the few perks of this role, you know, aside from the extra vacation days I get for doing this.
Let's see. We did also receive the executed joint resolution and memorandum of agreement from both counties for our ARPA funding agreement. So that has also been fully executed. I mean, all in all, I feel like May is shaping up to be a really banner month for the COG for getting some long-term projects accomplished. I am leaving on a week's vacation as soon as this meeting is over. So we'll go out on a nice ride for that. Zach will be setting up discussions with staff in each of the counties to just set initial expectations and to start work on that project. So we're excited to get that going. In your packet, you have an update on all the things that are going on with our Brownfields grant. The Franklin and Benton County broadband action teams, we're continuing to madly work on getting that planning work done by June 14th. Thank you to both counties for executing the request for the rapid design study. As is often the case, all you have to do is send an email. That's all you need to do. That's always such a lie. There's going to be some follow-up meetings to gather some additional information. So apologies that I wasn't aware of that on the front end, but we're getting all of that taken care of next week. I'll be handling those meetings while I'm on vacation since we have no time. On the RLF closeout and loan status, we've had a couple of significant things happen in the last month. The first one is that the personal home that had been guaranteeing our Lone Star 3 loan, the Dickey's bankruptcy, had been foreclosed on and sold by another creditor. Thank you. Besides us, it did sell for enough that there are going to be excess proceeds, so we still anticipate really receiving funds for some of our outstanding debt from that loan, and our bankruptcy attorney, Charlie Bowers, is working on that for us on our behalf. So I'll know more in the next few weeks, but we will receive some funding against that defaulted loan. The second defaulted loan that we had frankly given up most hope of being able to collect anything was a loan made under credit for Camelot's Castle. And we'd had a summary judgment in Washington for I think it's $36,000 on that loan. Plus interest and other collection. The owners of that business moved out of state, and we were really struggling to identify how to go about trying to do collections outside of the state. We were able to work with our partner entity, the National Association of Credit Managers, to actually handle that collection and the legal work related to collecting on that loan for us. They went the route of garnishing wages for the previous borrower. The borrower has since countered back with a settlement offer to pay the settlement amount from Washington's court proceedings, if we would waive the additional fees to pay it in full. So I'm waiting to receive the paperwork for that settlement agreement. But again, I'm actually thrilled. I didn't think we were going to be able to collect on that loan at all. So we're pretty excited about that one.
Can you see that as a topic at the next meeting?
Yes, as soon as I get the paperwork. Okay. And then TSR Management has paid their loan in full. They had a balloon payment due in April, and they have paid that loan. So some good activity on the loan front status over the last month. And then, of course, our annual financial reports are due to be filed on the 30th of this month, and our bookkeeper and I have been finishing up that paperwork. So that's the general update.
Said a couple items. You were kidding.
There were just a couple.
Just a couple. Okay. Any questions for Michelle on any of that excellent update? Good info. Most of it, if not all of it, positive news.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Okay, not hearing any, then we'll move down to item 9 on the agenda, which is new business. Any member of the board have any items of new business you'd like to have considered now or going forward?
But you don't want to drive it. You want to sit down.
Okay, not hearing any. Sounds like Skip's on way out the church. And we'll move on to item 10, which is comments of council of governments. Anybody have any comments or announcements they'd like to make?
I did, Councilman Brown. Again, just if there's anything you all would like me to share and give the council updates on this coming Monday, I would love to give them a great outcome of this meeting, which I think was very in-depth, a very good job, well done. I'm in HR, so seeing those bylaws is like, whoa. So I think that's a really good start. I like the work put into those bylaws, which are very good. It covers in many different areas. So if there's anything, Michelle, you all want me to share as an update for this great meeting so far today, I would you can email me, and I would love to share those with the council on you all's progress.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Maybe we could just send a summary email with a few bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, back to our agenda then. That brings us to adjournment, but before we do that, I just want to point out that our next meeting is Friday, June 16th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
Getting thicker.
And the meeting location is the same as for today's meeting. I would just ask staff maybe we could move adjournment in our future agendas to the very last item. I only ask because I wouldn't want somebody to cut off the recording at
And
the
not get the next
adjournment and
meeting.
not get the information for the next meeting and the recording. It's a small thing, but I think it might be a good tweak. And in case I didn't foot stomp it enough, at our next meeting, we'll have the election of officers.
Now, I was gonna just say, I just saw that on the agenda, and that is left over from the last meeting, but that is, it's a typo.
Scrivener's error.
It is.
Oh.
I'm sorry to get you excited about that, but that is a question for the board. We are halfway through this current board year. For feasibility for the COG, at least as staff, while we get all of these resolutions dealt with, staff onboarded, et cetera, those things. It would be my preference to see us do elections and all of that closer to the end of the calendar year to go into the next fiscal year. But we could absolutely do them earlier and then just amend the schedule so that you have service year and a half, because we're kind of midway through the year.
So let's all take the opportunity to review our freshly approved bylaws and get a clear picture in our minds of what our new structure and board's going to look like. Give people an opportunity to think for the next 30 days as to whether or not they're interested in serving as one of the COG officers, and then we can have a discussion then about timing. And you'll have to remind me when I started, but we'll figure out a calendar that the board is comfortable with, and we'll just do what works best for the COG. So with that, we've covered everything. Just one last call. Anybody have anything that they're wanting to bring up before we close the meeting? All right. Thank you all, and thank you especially the folks who made a special effort to call in from the road to give us a quorum, Vicky and Skip and others, Linda, and apologies if I'm missing anybody, but we could not have been successful today without you making the effort to do that. So thank you so much. I don't see any hands up.
Nope,
We're good. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much. Have a good one.
Bye.